I must take a moment today to thank the boldness of our government and our shareholders.
William Hamilton built his venture on the ashes of the Second World War. The copper mine he envisioned was ransacking the First Nations' ancestral territories, drawing the wrath of the local people. It definitely took nerves of steel to stay the course despite all this hostility. Before long, in the face of William Hamilton's cold and uncompromising stance, the petitions and peaceful protests turned into sabotage, vandalism, and other criminal acts. The industrialists' private properties also encountered the wrath of the demonstrations. Carl Faubert, a veteran of the Korean War, was hired from Montreal as a private detective to shed some light on this whole thing. But at the end of his journey to northern Quebec, the detective did not only encounter property damage, he also came face to face with the corpse of William Hamilton. The strangeness only kept building throughout the investigation. A powerful, unseasonable blizzard hit the region. Bodies frozen in unbreakable ice appeared. The local fauna began to act strangely and aggressively. Carl Faubert began to doubt his own sanity. The detective felt the weight of a gaze as if he were at the mercy of a powerful, feral creature, waiting for the right moment to attack. Carl's fears were taking over, overpowering his reason. He was giving into delirium. It was becoming increasingly difficult to think. He thought the dark waters of the lake would shield him from the images he was being confronted with. From there, he had a renewed hope in civilization, or whatever was left of it. Carl knew that on one of these shores stood William Hamilton's lavish mansion, and there, the detective had hopes of finding a way out of the area. A phone, a truck, and who knows, under the luxurious paneling and damask carpets, he might be able to find answers to his questions. The detective wondered about the floating debris. Had it drifted out from the shore, or had it been abandoned there in the middle of nowhere? Carl saw a boat in the distance, clearly piloted by one of his own. Had he finally made it to civilization? His hopes were immediately drowned out by the sounds of gunshots. Time to flee again, and fast. Carl swam without a thought, yet each stroke was desperate. The icy water and his wounds made him feel weaker and weaker. He had to get to shore. bleeding and the hypothermia were tearing at Carl's poor body. When he finally saw a light in the distance, he was filled with a faint sense of hope. Could it be a refuge? Carl was convinced that he would not wake up if he went to sleep in this state. It was probably best to make a fire and take a look at his wounds. The red glow of the flames allowed Carl to see the full extent of his injuries. In the warmth, Carl began to feel the stinging burn of his wounds again. Carl struggled to wake up. His makeshift bandages offered him little time. If he wanted to find the truth, he had to get to Hamilton Manor without delay. Just as he was about to venture outside, Carl suddenly felt vulnerable. He had not brought anything to protect himself. Just as he was about to venture outside, Carl suddenly felt vulnerable. He had not brought anything to protect himself. Just as he was about to venture outside, Carl suddenly felt vulnerable. He had not brought... Carl was forgetting that time was running out, He had to go to the manor if he wanted to find the answers to his questions. Carl left his makeshift refuge. He knew where he was going. A more comfortable but otherwise unsettling place, Hamilton's mansion. He knew that wolves do not attack people, but still, he had to be careful. The security was more reminiscent of a Korean military base than a mining operation. These stones came from a time long past, from a local people who had an organic relationship with these lands. Carl felt somewhat reassured by the construction. Carl tried to put the horror into perspective. Accidents happen, and in the inhospitable far north, it happens more often than not. Nevertheless, a feeling of déjà vu stayed with him, as if the carnage was not over. A magnetic card, the HMC, was definitely equipped with the latest technology. What could it open? The plan suggested that a package had to be retrieved not far away. Carl had to keep his eyes open. What were these mysterious fragments, and why was there a warning about the mist? This letter raised more questions than it answered for the detective. This was the mansion of the late William Hamilton. No doubt about it. There was no other rich industrialist in the area to have a sumptuous mansion built in the middle of nowhere.
Si vous entendez ceci, ce message est crucial. Trouvez un endroit où vous mettre à l'abri. Ne sortez qu'en dernier recours. Si vous avez à sortir, armez-vous et méfiez-vous de quiconque porte les couleurs de la Hamilton Mining Corporation. Tenez-vous le plus loin possible de la faune. Les animaux sont devenus extrêmement agressifs. Je répète, tenez-vous le plus loin possible des animaux et méfiez-vous de quiconque porte les couleurs de la HMC. Si vous entendez ceci, ce message est crucial. Trouvez un endroit où vous mettre à l'abri. Ne sortez qu'en dernier recours. Si vous avez à sortir, armez-vous et méfiez-vous de quiconque porte les couleurs de la Hamilton Mining Corporation. Tenez-vous le plus loin possible de la faune. Les animaux sont devenus extrêmement agressifs. Je répète, tenez-vous le plus loin possible des animaux et méfiez-vous de quiconque porte les couleurs de la AMC.
Added to the mayhem was violence. Carl understood that a tragedy had occurred here. Carl was overcome with a strange emotion. The crossword puzzle was in French, so he guessed it was the work of a Hamilton employee and not Hamilton himself. Carl was overcome with a strange emotion. The crossword puzzle was in French, so he guessed it was the work of a Hamilton employee and not Hamilton himself. Carl could feel his muscles weakening, his breath wheezing, his body going numb. What was happening to him? The floor was rocking. The walls seemed to be running from Carl's hands as he tried to steady himself. Something was not right. He doesn't know which way he came from or the way he's going. Everything seems to be going in a circle, a spiral carrying him. He doesn't know where or how. Carl was struggling to move forward. His feet could hardly find their way in front of him.
I must take a moment today to thank the boldness of our